Welcome to another episode of TCTF, True Crime Truth Finders.
If you're new here, please make sure to subscribe to our channel.
So I think I have to ask first, how are you feeling about everything that's come out in the last 24 hours or so? Were you shocked, or is this something that you thought, was gonna happen?
Yeah. I was pretty shocked. The first news thing on Facebook was that they're searching the property again, and so I started looking into it and stuff, and I just kept up with it, and then when they discovered the remains, I don't know, it's just super shocking and crazy to me.
I know that you had said that your husband worked with David at Alltech. Is that correct?
Yeah, he actually works at a different job now, but he worked there for about a year.
Okay, did he work with David the whole time?
Yes. The other two men that were last seen with Savannah also worked at Alltech. They all three worked together, third shift at Alltech.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, did they do the same thing? Were they actively working together all the time?
Yes.
Okay, so I was actually just talking to Cece about this. I was reading a couple articles right before I called you, and everything kept saying that there were two men that were last seen with Savannah. And I'm like, everything I've seen has said three. You don't have to tell me the names or anything, or if you do, I don't have to include them. But do you have any insight on that? Or was it two or was it the three? And, tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, so in the picture where they were seen leaving the bar, there was a black man that Savannah was had her arm around her or whatever, and then there was David. So that black man was there, and then there was another black man with him. So there was three men in total. And I guess they have all left together and went to David's house, which David actually lived in a different house. I guess he actually moved in with his parents where the remains were found. That was his parents' house.
Gotcha. Okay. So the other house that he lived in, is that, I actually did a video a few months ago. There's a lady named Grace, and she lives in the area, and she went on a street called Price Court. Is that the address you're talking about where he lived when this happened?
Yes, I don't know if that's the address, but I know that he did live in a different home before.
Sure.
Living with his parents.
Do you have any idea when he moved in with his parents?
No, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, sure, no problem.
What kind of guys were they? Do you know what kind of personality David Sparks had?
No, I never really got into all that. My husband, they were just acquaintances at work. He never really got into detail about what kind of man he was.
I've kind of heard that David lived at that house on Price Court, but then his parents lived at the house on Fallick Road. And obviously remains were found at Fallick Road. So I was reading something else. Again, there seems to be more contradictory information now that more information's coming out. But I had originally thought that Savannah was last seen. I had heard both properties. Do you know anything more on that? Did they go to Price Court and then go to David's parents' house? Or, I don't know, I just find it weird that I would not take somebody back to my parents' house if I had a house of my own. I don't know, it just kind of seemed weird.
Okay, so the story that David was telling, my husband and people at Alltech, okay, so they had left the bar, and I guess they had went to David's house, the one he lived with before he moved in with his parents. And, they were all there, and I never heard of them going to his parents' house.
Sure. Okay. So I wonder if maybe people were just assuming that he was at his parents' house at that time because that's where he lives now and because that's where the remains were found. So obviously they had to have, at least he had to have moved her or he had to have had help. And I know that when someone's dead weight, they're even harder to move. So I would assume that he had help. Now that you're telling, me some of this information, I piece it together and I'm thinking he had to have had help. And if he didn't, he's just one strong, SOB. If not, he had to have had help, So I wonder if some more arrests are going to be coming and if those other two men or if maybe someone in his family or something actually helped him.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. Because in the video you see the police getting the big metal box, there had to have been more than one person carrying that box, unless the box was already there.
Absolutely. I think that box came from his truck. I was looking at a picture from Inside Edition had a picture of his truck. Yeah.
Box.
Yeah, it looks like, and like his specific truck had something that obviously we were looking at it at 2 different times of, day, and everything from last night was super dark, but like you said, it was really heavy, and it looked like one of those, utility boxes for a truck. I was trying to find a picture of David's truck and trying to figure out maybe when that box was removed from his truck, because obviously they moved her somewhere, So now I have even more questions than I had before. So you said that David was telling people, he had his own story that he was telling people at Alltech. Is that something that, do you know if he talked about it a lot, or if it was just something like he came back to work after everyone realized Savannah was missing and people had questions, or if he was just trying to, tell people his side, or do you have any insight on any of that?
Yeah, like when I first saw that Savannah was missing, I didn't know who she was. Me and my friend were at my house, and we just were looking at the news and stuff. And that afternoon, my husband in the morning, the next day, we were talking about it. He was like, "Hey, have you seen on the news that some girl is missing?" And she was in the picture there was 2 men. And I was like, "Yeah, me and my friend were just talking about that yesterday." And he was like, "Those are the men I work with." And I was like, "Are you serious?" It was really shocking. And a couple weeks after that, my husband told me that, okay, so the story is that they left the bar and went to David's house. And while they were at David's house, she just had kids. I guess they were trying to have sex with her.
Sure.
Or I don't know exactly what, but supposedly she had gave all 3 of them oral sex, and one of the other men that was there actually recorded her doing it, and he was actually showing people the video at work, his coworkers. And after that, I guess the other 2 men besides David, they left, and supposedly they were the police ruled them out basically because they were seen at a gas station on video at some time in the morning. I'm not sure. And then, okay, so the next morning when she woke up, Savannah, I guess David was somewhere else in the house, and she was asleep in David's bed. And she woke up and went, walked to him, and she asked him, where she was, what county she was in, and he supposedly told her, and then she went back to bed. That's the story David's telling. And then he said that she woke up and left. He doesn't know where she went, who was supposed to come get her, or nothing.
But he willingly told people that she performed oral sex on all 3 of them, and that they recorded. You should see my mouth right now.
I guess one of the men actually had a video of her doing that to them. She was drunk. She doesn't know what she was doing. I know supposedly the other 2 men were seen on surveillance video at a gas station. So they had left David's house. I'm not sure if anything else happened, if that's when they killed her, or what happened, and they hid her body. I don't know. But if that is the case where the other 2 men left, David was the only one with her. David was supposedly the last one to see her. Supposedly she woke up and left, which is, obviously a lie now. Maybe he raped her. She's threatening to go to the police, and so he had to kill her. Maybe his family helped him, or who knows what happened.
Yeah. I also would find it, I know you said that you had heard that maybe the other 2 men were ruled out because they were seen at a gas station later in the morning or something, and I almost wonder if they were kind of initially going with that theory, but...
How can they rule those guys out when they don't know exactly when Savannah died?
That's what I'm thinking.
If she died that night, or...
I don't think that they can. I think what I think maybe is that now that they're putting all this together, they're either realizing he had to have had help. What you said, that box they were carrying out, I think there were 3 men. It was dark. Yeah,
that looks like a toolbox.
Yeah, it's huge. It wouldn't even fit in the coroner's van.
David's a little guy. I can't see him carrying that by himself.
No, there's no way. So he had to have had help. So I wonder if maybe now these other 2 men will be looked at again, because even if they didn't have anything to do with the murder, if they did anything, I mean, if you move a dead body or don't report it and you know about it, you can be charged with tampering with evidence or tampering with a corpse or all of it. I wonder if they'll be charged, or I almost wonder if someone in the family, and I want to go to what Cece told me right before I called you. Cece actually just found out. Do you want to tell her what you just found out?
Oh, the tip that came into authorities actually came from a man on the property that David Sparks is on. The guy called his lawyer, said there was a foul odor coming from his property. That's how it was worded. And his attorney then contacted authorities.
Is it one of the people who lived in the house? Because I just saw on the news also that, someone from the house called whoever. And
it has to be the family member, right?
Yeah, because that's what I saw also.
I bet it's his dad. Because it said coming from here, he smelled a foul odor coming from his property.
Thinking is maybe like, maybe it is his dad. Maybe he called up David and was like, hey, like, there's something smelling really bad, and then maybe David decided to turn himself in then. Because when all this was going on, when they started the search and everything last night, like around 12, I was talking to my husband, and I was like, hey, like, they're searching the property again, like, does he, like, still work? Like, it's because they were third shift, he was supposed to be at work last night, David was. And I was like, is David at work? Like, what's going on? And so he messaged his old boss, and one of the other men that were also there, and they were like, hey, is David at work and stuff? And his old supervisor messaged him back and said that David had quit yesterday morning and I guess turned himself in around 5 p.m. yesterday.
Wow.
Maybe his dad smelled the odor, like you said, confronted him, and he's like, son, you've got to turn yourself in and do the right thing.
Did your husband know anybody else other than those two men that, like, he would have hung out with, or, like, any of his family members or anything, or had he ever come in contact with any of them?
No, they only worked together.
Okay.
They never hung out. I mean, he hung out with one of the other two men that were last seen with her, but not David.
Sure. Okay, does he still hang out with him? And, like, does he think he's involved in anything?
I never thought, like, maybe they were involved in anything. And, I mean, he's a big man, so, I mean, he could have done something, but, I mean, he was quiet. He didn't really say anything, like, I mean, but you never know, like, you never know what people can do.
Absolutely. Along those lines, we never know what people could do or anything, I know you had mentioned that your husband had kind of stated that the day after, like, the next shift that David had to be into work, he acted, like everything was fine. He acted like any other day. Did your husband observe him in any, I don't know if you would know, but, like, did he ever mention to you if any of the three men, since all of them worked there, if any of them had kind of any weird conversations or had any kind of strange interactions in the days to follow, or at any time that kind of led him to believe, like, oh, this is kind of strange, or that kind of raised his eyebrows at all?
Yeah, he never told me anything like that. So, I mean, I'm not sure. So, I guess if there was something he was telling people, he was just trying to, like, keep it away from certain people.
Did your husband ever say how David was at work? Like, his personality, was he easygoing?
He never said anything specific, but I mean, like, they just worked together. They would, like, play ping pong together at work, like, nothing out of the ordinary or anything. And I mean, if there was something, like, crazy going on, like, we've talked about like this multiple times. I think he would have told me. But I know, like, before the whole situation, Savannah Spurlock went missing, like about a year ago. I know, like, because when this first happened, I was like, has David, like, ever said anything about, like, killing somebody or something like that? And I don't know if, like, they were, like, joking around or something, but I know there's, like, this machine that grinds up, like, stuff at this job that they work at, and David was like, how do you think I could, like, hide a dead body? And, like, he was like, that they could, like, put it in the, like, little grinder thing, and no one would ever find them and stuff like that. But that was, like, way before Savannah went missing.
That's kind of eerie to think about in an instance where he's now being charged with these crimes and possibly more. Okay, so since you say that, would where they worked, like if he did something to Savannah and, you know, the men helped, do you have any idea, like I don't know if you've ever seen the facility or anything or like the inside of it, but would you have any idea if they would have been able to take any evidence or take parts of her body or anything in? I know you said that, you know, he was mentioning that. Is it possible for him to get to that equipment for him to destroy anything of hers that you know of?
I mean, I've never been inside, but I mean, there could be a possibility. What basically Alltech is like bagging animal feed for like cows and chickens and stuff, which means they have to carry heavy stuff and there's grinding things. And I mean, I've never been on the inside, but I mean, there could be a possibility.
All right. Yeah. Do you know? I don't know if you would know at all. I would think that your husband would have told you, but do you know if like if David ever made, or any of the other guys ever made, any kind of rude or, you know, cruel comments or degrading comments towards women or anything, especially like after that video was surfacing around? Like, do you know if they made any derogatory comments about that then or anything prior that would kind of raise any eyebrows or anything?
No, my husband never mentioned anything like that to me. I always ask him, like, it's just like, it's so close to me, like, it's just crazy. And I have 2 daughters myself, like, this is just like so crazy.
I'm wondering about how David acted when they were showing that video at work. Do you know?
Oh, I'm not sure. I know it was just one of the other men. I mean, I know their names, like, but I just don't want to, like, I don't want anything to happen.
I do have one last question, though, and this could literally be about anything. Like, is there anything that Cece and I have not asked you that you think might be important, or is there anything that, you know, any kind of perspective on anything in regards to this case or the men or your husband's relationship with them, or I mean anything that you can think of that may be relative to any of this that you would just kind of want to put out there at all?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I wrote everything down, answers to the questions that like you sent me. And I think I've told you everything that I basically know about the whole situation.
I think there's a lot of things in here that they've been rumored around, like, you know, that there was a video or that, you know, she possibly had some sort of sexual contact with one or all 3 of the men, and you kind of put a little bit different of a perspective on it, that this isn't just a rumor. This is actually something that happened, and it kind of sounds like they were proud of. Why else would you show it, you know?
Yeah, and like what I was thinking is like since that man is showing that video, maybe he doesn't know that something happened to Savannah.
Yeah.
Like, he's going around, like, proud of her doing this. Maybe he doesn't know what if David did do something, or, like who knows? Maybe he does know, maybe he doesn't know.
Maybe they all left that night after partying, and it was just David and Savannah, and maybe she didn't want to have sex with him, and he has snapped on her. Because why would that guy show a video of her doing that if he, you know, knew she was murdered? I don't think he would do that. But there is a lot of dumb criminals in the world, you know.
You know what, Cece, though? You bring up a really good point, because if the guy who was showing this video around didn't know that Savannah had passed away, or maybe she hadn't, maybe he was holding on to her. I highly doubt it. Most of the time, they're not held on to and then deceased or then killed, you know. But maybe he didn't know, but it makes me wonder how, when you asked Cece how David was acting when that video was going around, because if if nobody knew that David had done anything and everybody thought that Savannah was just missing or whatever, it makes me wonder how David was acting. Like, he's obviously not going to tell the guy, hey, don't show that, you know, because he doesn't want him to know. So I wonder if he, like, partaked in that, or if he just kind of wanted nothing to do with it, or I don't know. It makes me wonder.
Something else that could have happened. You know, it could not be that David snapped on her. It could be that they had some pills or something and she OD'd and he got
it could be
panic. Yeah, I mean, she could have OD'd. They could have put something in her drink. Who knows? Yeah. I'm so eager to find out how she died. I do know they said that she was pretty decomposed.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, after 6 months of
Yeah.
just laying there, the hot weather, the cold weather.
that's what I was about to say.
They searched before. I don't know if they searched before with dogs, but they said they did that property. Maybe the dogs didn't pick up the scent either because the body wasn't there, it had been moved, or because the ground was frozen and the dog couldn't pick up the scent or the body froze. I don't know.
They did say that they found it in the ground. They found her, or they found the human remains in the ground. So that's a possibility, but I think, if I heard correctly, it was a shallow grave, and cadaver dogs are really, really, really good at their job. I don't know if they went out there the first time, but it's very possible that, especially since I would be curious to know when David moved from his house on Price Court to move in with his parents, and if any of that moving coincided, because now that I'm thinking about it, I wonder if he had somebody move her body and they didn't even freaking know about it.
Exactly.
Because he moved.
I'm thinking he could have moved her body when he moved. Her body could have been on that property and then moved.
And maybe he went there after. I wonder if he moved there after they searched the property, or maybe they went there before they searched the property, or maybe he moved there before they searched the property, and maybe that's why they searched the property, because he moved there. But
Yeah.
I would highly doubt it. I would think they would have had to have found her, unless he maybe kept some things at, that house on Price Court for a while and then moved them out after the fact. But
well, I did know that I read that they found some of her items with the remains, and I'm assuming that is her purse and her cell phone. I read that there was it just said like a couple of items that they knew were Savannah's. And I'm assuming she had her phone with her, and I think she had a purse, didn't she?
she did. They were looking for her purse.
A phone and purse. Her wallet was in her mom's car she parked. So they found a purse and phone, I'm assuming.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hope this is the closure that her family needs, because this has got to be awful.
Yeah, like the truth will come out soon. So they just gotta get a job and everything will fall into place.